Chaplain Dillard initiates creating and posting these videos. Their contents and YouTube's linked videos do not necessarily reflect specific beliefs, practices, requirements, or endorsements of the Department of Defense, its subordinate organizations, or other groups with which Chaplain Dillard is affiliated.
Welcome back. Today we are starting a series on DiSC personality styles. DiSC stands for dominant, influencing, stabilizing or stability, and conscientious. I'll go into what all that means later. Well, why study personality styles? And I realize there's lots of different types of inventories. There's an official inventory you can take online, or probably a pencil to paper type of thing as well. And there's the Myers-Briggs, and there's Kiersey-Bates, and there's Taylor-Johnson temperament analysis, and there are many types of personality types. Some extremely well researched and reliable and valid, others a little more kind of an overview and a layman's survey. The DiSC is very well researched, a lot of credibility. Let's see if we can just picture it in an initial cartoon to explain some dynamics. Here we've got Goofy, who is ready to go, but Pluto, on the other hand, is stopped and wants to focus. There's at least two things pictured here that are measured by a DiSC and the DiSC is concerned with, and that is the speed of work and the purpose of work. We don't yet know why Goofy wants to run, what he's focused on, but we know he wants to go. We don't yet know what Pluto is focused on, but we know that he wants to slow down and smell the roses, take a specific look at some aspect of detail. Well, let's go into some of that detail right now. DiSC takes a look at two basic dynamics, and that is extroversion versus introversion, and task orientation versus people orientation. One particular personality type is direct, decisive, a calculated risk taker, motivated by success, a brief communicator. They tend to avoid delay. That is your dominant personality type. Doesn't mean that they like to dominate over others in a negative way, but it means they're very assertive, they're very aggressive. They are extroverted, which is about speed of work, and they are task-oriented to get things done. So that describes who they are. Another personality type, on the other hand, is also extroverted, but they are people-oriented. They are enthusiastic, they are convincing, sociable, motivated by active relationships. They're a positive communicator, and they tend to avoid the mundane. They are the influencer. Again, they're a fast worker like the D, but they're not task-oriented like the D. They're people-oriented. A third personality type is patient, adaptable, laid back, positive, motivated by peaceful cooperation, a calm communicator, and they tend to avoid conflict. This person is your steady personality type. They are also relationship focused like the I, but they are low energy. They are low and slow, focused on the details of here and now, sometimes even the past of how things didn't go well in the past, so they can learn from it to bring stable relationships now. And the last personality type is analytical, perfectionistic, individualistic, motivated by expertise, a detailed communicator, and they tend to avoid small talk. This person is your compliant or your conscientious personality type. The different letters can stand for different things. I've heard dominant, directive, I've heard influencer, I've heard inspirational, stability, or safe or secure, compliant, conscientious. It's the same, trying to communicate the same things. The C personality type, they are also a slow worker, focused downward at detail, but unlike the S, they're not focused on relationships, they're focused on the task. So again, this is on the XY axis of extroversion, which is higher energy, and introversion, which is lower energy. Now I realize that other personality types, other personality instruments like the Myers-Briggs define extroversion and introversion differently than a level of energy. They focus, well, that's, I think I've even done a series on Myers-Briggs. You can check that out if you'd like. But DiSC is different. As we've said, DiSC is about the substance of our effort, whether it's a focus on task or people, plus the speed of our effort, whether we're extroverted, high energy, or introverted, low energy, and that is going to create waves. Let me tell you what I mean by that, or show you what I mean by that. Here's your dominant personality type. This is your battleship captain. They make lots of waves, and they just want you to deal with it. Your I is your water aerobics instructor. They enjoy some waves. Isn't this fun? Your S is your lifeguard. They watch all of the waves. I got you, babe, to make sure that people are safe relationally. And the C, this is your oceanographer. They dislike waves. Really? I'm trying to work here. So you can see how the focus of our effort, which is people orientation or task orientation, and the speed of our effort are going to create different personality types. Now, another way of looking at DiSC personality types are waves of time. For example, you've got waves in the past, waves in the present, and waves toward the future. The waves of the past help us with wisdom, learning about how things can be done right by seeing what happened in the past, right or wrong. The future is about making progress, looking forward to where we need to go. And the present is about connection. How are the waves affecting us now? These waves of past, present, and future correlate to specific personality types in DiSC. The D is about a future focus. They want to make progress. They're making waves to reach the future. The I and the S are focused on the present, making sure that we don't rock the boat too much, that people stay connected, and they're looking at the influence of the waves. And lastly, the C is focused on the past to make sure that we can learn from the last time we tipped the boat over so we don't do that again. Does that make sense? Now, one last thing before we wrap up this introduction. DiSC, or any personality type of analysis, tends to be strength-focused, looking at what we do well. And I'm going to suggest to you that is only one way that we should look at our personality types. Not just to be strength-focused, but to be function-focused. Here's what I mean by that. This is a graphic of my personality type. I'm a strong C, a secondary function of an S, very low I, somewhat low D. But the question is, when did we first emphasize these functions? Was it with our family of origin? Was it in a specific subculture that emphasized some things and kind of pushed others down? Was there a particular intense event? For some reason, we started to emphasize one aspect of a D, I, S, or C, and I've even color-coded those. D's are kind of red because they can be very aggressive. The I is green because it's go, 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 it's a motivator. The S is blue, calming, and the C is yellow, kind of caution, let's make sure we're doing things right. Something in our past caused us to begin to emphasize one as a goal and the other as a means. The question is that still working for us now? Do we want to continue that way, or are we working on autopilot? Are we functioning in the present because of what used to work for us in the past? Maybe, maybe not, but it's worth a look. Second question, how do our personalities actually function at home, at work, in social settings? To take a look. Yes, we're making some positive results, we're getting some positive results, because we tend to look at what we want to see, but to look at the big picture. How is our personality type, or the way we're using our personality, influencing other relationships? How's it influencing other work? How's it having that ripple effect, those waves, in our general setting? And do we need to make some adjustments? Which leads us to our last question. What is the function of any extreme deficits in our personality? I'm a very low I. I'm not a cheerleader. I am a preacher and a teacher and a counselor, and sometimes that requires high energy. And I have to muster that within myself because I'm more focused on the details of how do we get things right? How do we prevent harm? How do we help people to be safe? How do we stabilize relationships? I'm a thinker. I'm not as much of a cheerleader. So But because I'm so high in the C and so low in the I can be perceived as being hypocritical. Well, you were so upbeat preaching, and now you're so laid back. Well, I'm exhausted now. I had to muster that within myself. So I need to grow in my I and possibly bring my C down in some contexts. In other contexts, I need to be a stronger D in leading my family when it requires appropriate leadership, in leading my subordinates at work when they need some supervision or oversight or assistance or guidance. So what is the impact, especially in our deficit areas? Because there will be waves that come out from our personality type that impact relationships and tasks. Hope that makes sense to you. That's our introduction. Next week we're going to start looking at some specific personality types, beginning with the D, and we'll look at some categories each week, the same categories, and try to help us understand the significance of them and help us to make some decisions about what's most helpful and honorable in our context. And I hope to see you then.
At the release date of this video, I am stationed with Research Development and Engineering Command, RDECOM, at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Because the majority of our personnel are in this area, I spend most of my time here. I do, however, travel to our distant units based on command priorities and budget. I place these videos on YouTube for broad visibility to Army personnel and their families, but I hope the videos will be helpful to others too. If you are assigned to RDECOM and want to request specific topics by video, training on site or by VTC, or confidential counseling on site or by secure webcam, you can contact me at jeffrey.d.dillard.mil@mail.mil.